Welcome to this strategy-rich edition of The One Thing podcast, hosted by Ron Sheets. On each episode, Ron introduces you to the amazingly successful entrepreneurs from his Rolodex who reveal the simple truths behind the one marketing strategy they rely on to produce extraordinary results. Each episode is guaranteed to expose you to a proven approach for producing high-value and highly profitable business. Welcome to this episode of The One Thing podcast.
Being here in Cleveland, Ohio, one of the big companies that's been a kind of a staple in the Cleveland area and became a staple across the country was a company called Jo-Ann Fabrics, which I'm sure a lot of people are aware of. Sean, up in your area, I'm not sure if they have Jo-Ann Fabrics up there, but it was a big retail fabric, craft, and sewing store. And they started out in 1943 here in Cleveland, Ohio, and they were called the Cleveland Fabric Store, I think. And they just started as a single store and then grew. And I think in 1969, they expanded across the country. And by 1980, they had 800 stores at the height of their expansion. They had 800 stores, and they had become a household name in the craft and sewing fabric business. And as usual, as businesses expand, they lose sight of where they're going and what they're doing, and their business has continued to go into a free fall. They've taken on a lot of expenses. They haven't been able to manage their debt. They have had inventory troubles. There was a resurgence during the pandemic that they kind of came back, but after the pandemic was done, this kind of went into free fall again. There was an announcement that there were closing stores, but Tuesday morning, the news report was that they were closing all of their stores, which is really what kicked the idea for this meeting. And I reached out to my friend Amy Baughman and said, hey, would you mind getting on this call with us to talk about this? Because I've known Amy about 15 years. I think her business tracks back 30 years. She's in the, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I say this wrong, Amy, but she's in the sewing and craft business. She has a brick and mortar store just outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and she's done very well. So I wanted to get her on here to talk about her business because she's doing a lot of smart things in her business. And I don't expect that any of the things that we're going to talk about today are going to be new to anybody. We're going to really be preaching to the choir, but it's very important to revisit these things and get a fresh perspective. So she's in the sewing and craft business. None of us are in that business. However, there's things that we can borrow or even learn from what she's doing in her business. So that was really the catalyst for kicking this off. Hopefully, you all had a chance to look at that 2-minute video that I included in the email, which was Amy speaking at the VDTA where I spoke at years ago. And as a foundation for us going forward, one of the things that I looked at what's happening with Jo-Ann and kind of analyzing that as compared to Amy's business, not to compare the two because they're very different, as you'll find out, but was the difference in separation from the customer or the client. And anybody that's read Dan Kennedy's book, Trust-Based Marketing, if you go specifically and look at the section that has the 9 gates of customer, I think it's called customer commitment. It's the 9 things that people are trying to figure out about us in their buying process, whether they know it consciously or not. And as we go along, you will see, and what Amy talks about is that she checks off a lot of those 9 boxes. And you'll see some of the intangible things about Amy and her business that have made her successful in comparison to the fate of Jo-Ann Fabric. So, Amy, I apologize. It's kind of a long-winded introduction. I'd like to introduce everybody to my friend Amy Baughman in Pittsburgh. So, Amy, thank you for joining us.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Ron, for reaching out. And it's great to kind of reconnect after what seems to be a million years ago, right?
It has been.
Yeah.
We were commenting. I think the last time we saw each other, we both had darker hair.
Yeah, a lot darker hair.
Yeah,
So,
and I had more of it. She's
yeah,
done very well, but I had more of it.
yeah, I
Uh,
managed to keep it.
why don't we start off with Amy? If you'll kind of set the stage for us, tell us about your business and who your ideal customer is.
All right. So this is my 34th year in retail. My store is 12,000 square feet. My primary business is selling sewing machines. I have four brands of sewing machines, retailing from $200 to $20,000. We're more of a $3,000 to $20,000 customer, more on the high end side of things, which is great, which sets us apart a little bit from Joanne, which we consider a big box location. But I have about 3,500 bolts of fabric, really nothing in the craft space. Some more sewing, quilting, and machine sales is really where we're at. And then the other half of my life, I have two subscription boxes and one membership. So I have that on top of the reoccurring revenue on top of the retail.
So why don't you clarify for everybody the difference between a subscription box and membership?
So my subscription box is based on a class, and then they get the box of supplies every other month, depending on what subscription they're in. And my membership doesn't include anything but a Zoom call, like we are here. It's just, it's the guild at Amy Sews. Everybody pops on, shows off what they're making. You know, if they get stuck with something, we have a little guest speaker. And so that's easy. Like I flick the computer on and I'm good, right? There's no planning, no inventory, no nothing. So that's my new growth for 2025.
Okay. And what about, so you said that you're um, selling machines from 200 to 20,000, but you're in that 3,000 to 20,000. What about your customer? What does your customer look like? Because who do you target?
Right. So I want to say my ideal customer is usually they are 60 plus female, single, widowed, um, retired, extra income, and bored to death. So that's kind of my target customer. We are seeing some younger girls coming in, and that's kind of where my shift is going to be for this year. As you know, the loss of Joanne. Now, Michael's and Hobby Lobby still sells, entry level box machines, but to kind of get these young girls to experience like a higher quality of fabric and maybe a little better sewing machine, but to keep them interested in the craft.
Yeah.
Like, and I hate to say it out loud because a lot of people suffered, but COVID was amazing for me. So I'm just gonna say that out loud.
Well, I think it was amazing for every business in this space. Like
Yeah.
Joanne, like I said, they saw their resurgence, but they didn't
Right.
learn anything from it.
They didn't learn, but they also didn't make any corrections. They had private equity running Joann's, and that's what happens when Roscam sold them. The stock was no longer public, and private equity owned them. They made some incredibly poor decisions on inventory. They just couldn't adjust fast enough, and they just assumed everybody was sewing during COVID. They're going to continue to tie fleece blankets after COVID was over. And so they didn't slow their inventory and make adjustments for that.
What adjustments did you make? I mean, when you went into COVID, how did you respond to that? And then how did you adjust coming out of it?
So going into COVID, nobody expected what was going to happen, of course. And so I had enough fabric inventory that really wasn't the issue. I couldn't get machines. I mean, we were all selling machines by the hundreds, by the pallets. We were ordering machines, like $500 and under machines. People just wanted something to stay busy. Once we saw that COVID start to trickle back, I just kind of quit ordering. I'm like, we're going to survive on what we have. And I know a lot of independents and quilt stores have closed since COVID. Everybody got used to those big numbers, two years of 100% growth, and they just assumed it was going to continue. And so it's not my first rodeo. I went through 2008. I went through 9/11. I went through some other tragedies that have happened that has changed the buying of things. But I really just was very cautious with my inventory. And even now, I'm very cautious with my buying. I have one on the floor, what I call one to show, one to go, except for those that we sell weekly. And I'll have 6 of those, but I'm no longer pallet buying, so to
Mm,
speak. But
yeah.
those who didn't make inventory adjustments, and last year was probably my worst retail year since 2008. Anytime there's a tumultuous presidential election, people are unsure of the economy. Everybody's afraid to write a check for $15,000, right? Am I going to need it? What's going to happen? No matter who was voted in or who was voted out, everybody had emotional attachment to it. So it was a rough year last year, but that's why I'm glad I had that reoccurring revenue in my subscriptions, my memberships.
Yeah. How do you, so you've got your niche audience that you target and you're going to be going into a younger crowd, but how do these people find out about you? How do you reach them? How do you reach out to them? How do you communicate with them? How do you connect with them? I mean, kind of give us a sense of how you do your marketing and advertising, because
Right.
you're a store in Pittsburgh, but we'll talk about it in a little bit. You told me about an event you've got going on that you've got people coming in from all over the country.
Right. I think just creating the retail excitement that no one else is offering. But most of it is, you'll see me a lot on my front facing Facebook page. I'm live constantly, not constantly, 3 times a week, which is a lot, and streaming into YouTube, which as Facebook changes, YouTube's now becoming back to the place to be. Um, Collecting emails at every opportunity from my online sales people, my membership people. So when we announce now the educator who's coming, it's Designs by Juju, and she sells digital machine embroidery designs as a download. So hold on to your hat. $6 million last year in digital downloads. No inventory, no product, digital downloads, and a
Wow.
team of 4. So that's like she's my hero. I'm just gonna say that. So she's really popular. So as soon as I announced her name, everybody wanted to be here for that. We sold out. My event center is 6,000 square feet. So I can only hold 120 people at a time. So but it really is, back in the day when I was doing the Glazier Kennedy thing, you build the herd, right? And that's what it's all about, is you have to be in their face constantly. There's so much competition. I often do a lot of tip videos, videos to get people to follow me. So when I announce something, then there's at least people watching.
Yeah.
That's, I think that's basically it. It's all been through social media. My retail store has a clean email of about 10,000, which is not a lot anymore, right? As
Mhm.
far as retail goes, but it's very clean. Um, but that's really about it. I think just because I'm always there, like I'm always in their face doing something, I think is the key.
Yeah. Let me step back a second. Something you mentioned in regards to collecting emails, because emails, um, despite what people think about emails, emails are still a viable means of communicating with an audience. And that being said, emails are hard to get, or at least authentic, connectable emails are hard to get. What are you doing to capture people's emails? What's your strategy for that?
So the good thing about my space, the creative space, is people are always looking for something to download or do. So I have do something called Flipping Friday, which should be happening right now, but I'm here with you. And I put up some sort of a file, whether it's an embroidery file or I talk about fabric. I use the F word. And those are free files to download, and they have to go through my point of sale, of course. So I collect their information that way to get their free information, or I'll do a video, post it privately in YouTube, just so it's not everybody can get to it. And I'm like, hey, I just did something on bias binding, here's the link. But they have to go through that process to leave me their email, which
Yeah.
irritates some people. And some people don't mind it. I get that, all you want is my email. Well, absolutely. That's all I want is your email. You know, it's some people who know what they're going to get from me, but they can, with the laws, they have to opt in whether they want to hear back from me or not. So,
Yeah.
um, and Apple has changed a lot of that with their securities too. So, but that's really about it. I'm constantly offering them something for free.
Yeah.
It takes very little time and no money.
Yeah. If we get the opportunity at the end, the more we're talking, and I'm going to target this to you, Dustin, is that there are similarities. There's large similarities between Amy's business and Dustin's business, which is backyard growers. And I don't know where they're at now, but the last time I know I talked with Mike and Dustin, their email list was like 180,000
Wow.
that they had. So just I'm going to throw that out there for you too, is that if you guys get to connect, there may be, a comparing notes thing there for you. Um, when you get the emails and then you do the follow-up marketing to it, how do you find though the authenticity or the legitimacy of those emails are? Are they giving you legitimate emails, or when you do your follow-up marketing to it, are you getting a lot of bounces, a lot of opt-outs? What's your experience with that?
I'm not getting a lot of bounces, and it usually takes them to get like 3 emails is kind of what my average is before some people bounce out. The majority stay because they're reoccurring. They want that free thing every week. But they're also segmented into the people who want the cutting file for the digital cutters. I have Scan and Cut. So you might be familiar with Cricut or Silhouette or something like that. And then I have my fabric people and my embroidery people, and they get split into 2 different email pockets. And so when I have a product to sell, then it gets segmented to them. And I will tell you, I move a lot of product through email.
Yeah. So you're selling your physical goods at a distance.
Absolutely. So I have a lady in Hawaii who pays shipping to Hawaii. Now they're really underserved there, but she became what I call a super fan, which kind of creeps me out to say that anybody would want to follow me as a super fan. But anything I say like, oh, here's a can of widget spray, it's the best thing I've ever used, will send me 10, and whatever I do that video with, like if it's a certain embroidery stabilizer or a thread pack or something, I'm like, hey, I have these on special, you might be interested. And they kind of correlate with that Saturday, that Friday show, but not always. I always put overstock in there. Because retail, I mean, you sell it, but the turns aren't like they used to be. We used to get maybe 3 turns out of fabric, and now it's 4. And so I'm always looking for a way to keep things moving.
Yeah. With you, so let's jump into your live event that you're doing with 120 people. You
Yep.
filled the room to capacity.
Yep.
And I'm going to open this up for everybody in a bit for Q&A. So if you've got questions, jot them down, keep them in mind. For that event, did I hear you say that you have this lady or somebody from Juju who is going to be your guest?
Yes, Julie herself, designs by Julie herself, who doesn't do sewing machine dealer events. She did a cruise with me. We also do sewing cruises, which is a whole nother discussion, but she did a cruise with me last year and loved it. And so I'm helping her get into the sewing machine dealer market where she would develop a program where she doesn't have to be there, but the rights to teach her stuff. And so she's coming, we're kind of doing a test run.
So to borrow Kennedy's term, she's your Shamu the whale. She's the one everybody's coming to see.
It's not about me. They could care less about me. Absolutely. It's all about her.
Yeah. But you had the list to be able to communicate with her and dangle her out there in order to attract them.
Right.
So walk us through what does the business look like for that event for you? So how did you promote it? How much did you promote it? Through what channels did you promote it? And then what did you see as far as responses? Because we know that it requires much more communication and connection today than it ever has. So
Yeah.
what's the business look like that? Are they paying to come and attend?
Yeah, they're paying $129 for the day. They get a tote bag, their lunch, and 3 kits that have the fabric and things in them. We provide sewing machines for which we sell, right? We put a good deal together to them buy the machine that they used all day. So it's 2 single-day events. So it's Friday and Saturday are identical. So it's 2 sets of people that are coming. The good thing is Julie's not charging me anything for this because this is a kind of a test market for her business. So in registration, we cleared like $14,000 or something. So it's in my store. It's already included in my rent for my overhead. My employees are already here. I figure between I took $25 for luncheon kits off the top. So it's going to be incredibly profitable. I should sell about 8% of the room with sewing machines, which is, could be a huge number as well. And then they're in my store. So now they're shopping, right? They're already shopping for what's here. So the traffic into my retail store is huge to get, because there's a book out there called The Tipping Point, and how you like build the excitement, build the excitement, build the excitement. And when you get that many women in a room, nobody is out shopping. They're out shopping one another. And so that's the best part. Like they just grab a buggy and go. Oh, I bought 10 threads. Oh, I'm going to buy 12, and they do it to themselves. One person buys a machine at the table, next one goes, wow, I could use a new machine too, and that's just kind of how it starts. They do it to themselves. It's just that type of customer, right? You get them excited and they do it on their own.
Yeah. Of that 8% that you figure you're going to sell machines in that to, what do you anticipate that'll look like economically? Like what kind of sale number?
So we're doing midline embroidery only. So they sell for $4,000. They cost me, so be 15. So I'll make about $1,500 on each machine. Maybe I'll make $1,800 in each machine. So if I sell 10 machines, that's $18,000.
Yeah. So on top of that, you're profitable on the front end of the business
Yeah.
of just having them attend. How far are people traveling to get to this thing?
So I'm in Pittsburgh. We have people coming from Florida, Indiana. Now we live right on the course, Ohio and West Virginia, kind of, we all can throw a stone and hit each other. So, but there's a lot of Ohio people, West Virginia people coming. There's a lady coming from Wisconsin, just because this particular person doesn't do in-person events. She just has a huge online presence. And so I'm excited to build this relationship with Julie, but yeah, it's going to be incredibly profitable. So, and I will tell you, during COVID, we had no events, right? So I'm sitting on 12,000 square feet of emptiness as well. I built that out because by the time I rented a hotel room and I paid hotel food expenses and union in and out, I made $1, so for a lot of work. And so now I'm happy to have the space.
Yeah. You also have in your store, you have, and forgive me, I don't know the term, but it's like sewing events where where people come and gather and they get together.
Yeah.
To talk about that a little bit, because where I'm steering at is I see, and I've gotten some pushback on this, but I see a resurgence of getting together, one-to-many events having a return, where not maybe to the days of the 1980s where it was the get rich in real estate type things, the Ron LeGrand things, but I think that there's a return of this people getting together over a common interest and growing a business. So excuse me. So tell me about your sew and learns. What's that look like, and what's that business like for you?
So people coming in to learn a certain subject is pre-COVID. I keep refraining from COVID, but anyhow, pre-COVID, we'd have 10, 15 people in a class. That was normal, right? Instantly we'd have that. We are just now getting back to that point. So we're getting 15, 20 people per class, but we do an open sew. And because, I'm 6,000 square feet, it's a lot of rent. So we have open sew where everybody's welcome to come, and they've kind of built their own community where they come and work on their own projects. They bring their little travel machines, and it's really been good for us because they're building their own community. They're in the store. They're going to buy something. In most cases, they buy something. So the hard part now is finding teachers for what I do. Does that make sense? A lot of the young girls they call us pearl clutchers because we're like, oh, you broke the rules, of how you're supposed to do something. And so I had a young girl who was teaching. My older ladies did not gel with her at all. And so I'm in this weird spot, but they want to come back in person and they want the knowledge. And so the classes range anywhere from nothing on Wednesday to from $15 to $200. We have a lady coming in who makes tennis shoes. She's coming in July, and it's already sold out. So I don't know if that's answering your question.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The point being is that when they come in your store, you're giving them your store is the catalyst for them to gather and build community and
Yeah.
come together. And while they're in your store, they're buying stuff from you as well.
But where
So
that's problematic, I have these big events, when I put machines out, because they have bonded these friendships and they come in pods of 4 or 6, these little groups, they already have the machines. So now I'm to the point now where I have these people who have bought machines, bought machines, bought machines, and now I got to find new people. But the old people sign up instantly, like I'm coming because it's so much fun. So I started doing things kind of, I hate to use the word sneaky, but before I launch it to my everyday people, I'll run an ad on Instagram, or I'll run an ad on YouTube, where normally they wouldn't be looking for that, to see what kind of response, if I can get fresh blood before I release it to everybody that's already in the fold. That's one of my struggles.
yeah. So that leads me then too, is if you've got the people who have already bought the machines and so forth coming in, and they, aside from supplies and that, you started now your subscription boxes and your membership. Is that what was your motivation for starting the subscription box and the membership? And again, kind of how did you roll that out? Because as I understand it, it's only been a couple of months since you really introduced those things.
Well, the subscription boxes I've had for 3 years. The Zoom Guild, I just rolled that out a couple months ago. So in my business, it's very common to have kits already done. Like, I want to make such and such a placemat, or I want to make a quilt. Here's your kit and here's your directions. And one day I'm like in the store and I'm like, why the heck am I not mailing these to whoever wants them? Right. And then I already have this studio with all these cameras and everything ready to go. Um, I just threw it out there one day. I'm like, hey, I'm doing this. Who wants a kit? I had a 40% buy rate. And I'm like, that's awesome. And the next thing you know, I'm chasing down a subscription model. Now, when I first met you a million years ago, I had a company called sewinform.com. I was doing sewing classes, mailing CDs. That's how bad it was. And there was no Facebook. We were in Yahoo groups, which 20 years ago, right? I mean, and you're the one that introduced me to video, right? When I met Ron, he goes, why aren't you doing this in YouTube? Why aren't you doing this? I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, the subscription boxes sort of saved my life, I guess, as far as when you have a rough retail year, you still have reoccurring revenue coming in. So I'm 3 years, and I have 2 subscriptions. They're every other month. So some month there's always something shipping. And between those two categories, I have about 800 members that majority of them pay $65 for their box. I have a couple that do class only option. And the guild that Amy sews is only $15. I have 120 some people. So that generates about $1,800 a month for about an hour of my time. And they just want to talk. They just want to visit with you, show you what they're doing. And I think that can work really in any business. If you have there's always tips, there's always things to talk about. There's always people interested in what you're doing and what your business is doing. So the subscription boxes were huge, huge.
Yeah. And your membership is only going to grow because you said you've got a 10,000 email list and you've got 150 people in this, and that's just going to continue to grow.
Right. I have to change my messaging. My messaging is like, nobody's understanding what I'm trying to do. So I got to fix my message. But organically, people are talking about it in their own chat rooms and their own Facebook groups. And so I'm seeing some people just join organically.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me check my notes here. We've kind of talked about a lot of the things that I wanted to talk about. Let me open this up to the group for questions. So anybody have any questions for Amy as far as what we've talked about, or what you want to ask that we haven't talked about? Dustin, go ahead.
Yeah, hey, Amy. I have a question on like online lead generation, I guess. Do you do anything or get anything from Pinterest?
I am just kind of starting to focus on Pinterest, starting to post my videos there. I've kind of, and that's where I should have been first, to be honest with you, because Pinterest is where the creatives hang out and look for ideas. And I'm finally just getting it together. I just hired a OBM, so we're looking at getting all the reaches instead of me doing everything myself. Putting an online team together instead of my retail team. But yes, Pinterest is where I should be. We're just now starting to post some random videos there and go from there. But yes, thank you. It's an
Yeah,
awesome
thank you. Appreciate it.
platform.
What about TikTok? Have you done anything with TikTok?
I'm just starting. I was so intimidated, and then I was like grateful when they canceled it that I didn't have to worry about doing it. But so I just started posting things there. I think I have like 400 followers, but like everything else, it takes constant posting, pressure, presence. And I get torn between running my retail store, running my online business. So now my son's taking over more of the retail. So I'm focusing more online because we do the sewing cruises and I'm always traveling. So I can do this from anywhere, right? Which is the goal of the reoccurring revenue when I'm 62-ish, and a half-ish. And so I'm looking at something I can continue to do because I love doing the education. So, but all the platforms, I think you have to be everywhere all at once. And now with Facebook canceling, deleting all live videos, whether they're inside your private group or your forward page, the people that I have belonged to a mastermind group too. We're mostly creatives. We're all heading back to YouTube because YouTube and Google go hand in hand. I think Facebook is going to start to force us to pay to be on a platform, to post our things. That's my inkling. I have no proof of that. I think Facebook has something up their sleeves. And Facebook is and spammy is not the right word. It's very easy to be corrupted in Facebook and duplicated in Facebook. People steal your stuff on Facebook all the time. So this year's focus is TikTok, Pinterest, and YouTube, going back to YouTube to build the subscription there.
Let me ask you about the creative side in what you do, because you're 100% right. You've got to be all places all the time with valuable content. How do you, come up with what are you going to talk about? Is there any particular process that you go through in determining that? And two, how do you go about getting it made? Because you kind of tipped your hand a little bit earlier, we're talking about cameras and that type of thing. But two questions: how do you come up with what you're going to talk about? And two, how do you get it done quickly?
So the studio where I'm at is always set up. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 cameras and lights and my microphone. And so I keep this room clean. I don't sew in here. It's just studio time in here. But first thing I do is I go back when I do any kind of content, I go back and read through the comments. If I see this certain question over and over again, or do I see a pain point, and I write that down. And I'm like, okay, so I'll take it the next level. So let me show you how to do it a different way. A lot of people come in the store and they say, hey, how do you do this? I'm like, okay, I write it down, something to do. Now, the good thing about being in the creative space is there's always something to show or talk about, right? So that comes extremely easy. I don't do a lot of planning because I do Make It Mondays and I do Flippin' Fridays. I go live Saturday morning in the retail store. This is one of the best things you can do if you have a space. I don't know if it's a car garage, if it's your law office, it doesn't matter. Take your camera, go live in Facebook and walk through your store. Show people something new. Look what's happening. Oh, look, Susie's working on something. And, that doesn't matter if you're a dentist. We have some privacy issues, of course, but some of the things that you do, and if somebody said there's somebody in here does the HVAC, my most popular videos are the ones I show the dirtiest sewing machines when I'm servicing them. You do a quick video on changing a furnace filter and how disgusting that is, that'll go viral. But yeah. I walk around my store, I show what's new, who's doing what, who's working on what. It's just a nothing chat through. It gets the most plays. People want to know what's happening behind your business, behind the face.
That's great. That's good advice. So let me open it up. Any other questions? Anybody else have any questions for Amy?
I have a question, Ron. Amy, you and I actually have the same market. So I actually teach people who make handmade products how to sell their products online.
Oh, awesome.
And I've been looking a lot at collaborating with somebody like you, somebody who teaches how to do the thing, right? The sewing or making the candles, making the soap, etc. I'm curious though, from your day-to-day interactions with people, how many people do you see in your business that are taking it that extra step and trying to make a business out of it? Like, do you have a percentage maybe you can pull out of thin air, or maybe of like whether or not it makes sense for somebody like me to approach somebody that's in a teaching space like you are, whether or not there's a large enough group of those people that are interested in taking it a step further and trying to sell their products and build a real business out of it?
So I'm going to guess off the top of my head, when I look at machine sales, people who buy like the multi-needle machines who want to start a side hustle, I'm guessing about 10%. On the other hand, people comment constantly, oh, I want to do what you do. I want to be an influencer. I want to sell online. I want to teach. I think there's a true interest in that. And I just always welcome it because very little of it comes to fruition, right? I want to see your studio. I want to see your cameras. Well, go on in, help yourself. So I think there is a huge market for that because I think people don't know what to do with it because you get very lost out there. I mean, there's millions of us, right? And I am a very small creator on the scope of what's out there. So I think educators would need that guidance on how to take it to the next level, especially starting like a membership, like the purse of the month, or I want to make a candle of the month. I want to, my friend Jonica has a build your own bakery membership for people who like to bake and want to start a bakery. So I think there's a lot of room for creatives because we are very out there focused on the next shiny object. Very few of us have the brain capacity to do the technical. It's hard to find us both with both brains working at the same time. So there's huge room for that.
Yeah, so I've actually been helping people who sell their products online, but that is an area that I've been wanting to expand into a couple of years now, is actually helping the creatives take their patterns or their training or digital information business online as well. So I appreciate that feedback. That gives me something to think about. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Because people reach out like in my space, reach out all the time, like, hey, I want to sell my classes. Can you host it for me? And I have not opened that up. So I think kind of like Pinterest, but is it Craftsy that was doing the videos? I don't know. I don't even know what they're up to these days, but I think there is definitely room like for you to have a hosting hub of, yes, I'll host your video. Here's your link. So it's not on Facebook, it's not on YouTube. I use Customer Hub to store all my paid content. But yeah, I think there's definitely, Allison, a big space for that.
Good. Anybody else? Questions?
I have a quick one.
Scott?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I wonder, Amy, if we're related, since we spell our names the same way and it sounds like we pronounce them the same way. Baughman. Anyway, small world. Have you thought about doing like a silver, gold, platinum level in your subscription or membership business? Have you tested that? I was just curious.
Yes, I test early on. My very first one had 3 different levels where you just had entry level, class XS. You had the class plus printouts, and then you had the class plus the CD back in the day. Where I'm at now, I'll be very honest with you. They have a choice of a class only, which is 37 something, or the box at 65 something. I didn't know where to put that middle, but I will tell you, as of yesterday, 87% take the box, take the full $65.
Well, it sounds like instead of doing something in the middle, you should go one level higher.
Oh,
and
okay,
do
Scott, I'll
something
add that to my day.
I mean,
Yeah, I
just
understand
always
that.
thinking.
Right. So
But-
what I do offer is like twice a year I'll do a premium class that that the top end can buy in, that get included and the other people don't. But yes, that is a logical thought, and I do that in my retail sales actually. When I do my service packaging, you can choose silver, gold, or platinum, and most people do take gold or platinum. I have very few that take the entry level.
There you go.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you very much for sharing all this content. It's been great.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate you hanging in there with us. At least nobody clicked
Absolutely.
off, so I feel good about that.
Anybody else? Questions? So, um,
Ron, I'd like to make a point.
yeah, go ahead, Dottie.
She had mentioned about people come in and want to see her business, and she said it could be used in a law firm or a dentist's office, or even if you don't have a brick and mortar. I think that's an excellent idea to walk through, and people get a chance to see who you are and what you do and where you do it. You know, you're not a basement business kind of a thing. I thought that was a great point that Amy made.
I did that with my dentist who is new and built this huge building and desperate for new clients, right? And I said, you know what, Dr. Steiner, I said, you're the only dentist I've been to where I don't feel the injection. So he had like 3-4 people in the chairs with the hygienist. And I said, we're not going to show faces, but ask him if we can ask him a question. And the question I asked was, hey, did you feel that injection? No, not at all. He's so good at it. So we built his whole campaign on painless injections. So, and he probably gained 15, 20 new clients that week just from that one silly video of people who were afraid of injections.
Wow.
Good. All right. No further questions. We'll kind of wrap it up. Amy, thank you very much for taking the time.
Oh my
somebody
gosh,
else?
thank
Yeah.
you. It's so good
Yeah,
to meet
I've
all
got a
of you.
question. So when you have your events in your store, do you do you set up tables? Do you move the rows, or does everybody just fit? Because you've got 120 people in there.
So we do have banquet tables set up in pods. There are 8-foot, 8-foot tables back to back. There's 3 chairs on each side. Sometimes we share a machine, but I have the space. I have 2 overhead projectors that fill the whole wall with the information and a sound system. Yeah, I already own the tables and chairs and coat racks, and it looks just like a banquet hall, except it has concrete floors because I ran out of money. So people spill stuff. The best thing, the concrete just drinks it. So I decided, hey, I am not even putting new floors in. So, but yeah, it's everything's built out, ready to go. And we do move them into, I can split the classroom with like a wheelable partition wall. So I can have 2 things going on at once. But most cases it's just wide open, and my customers love that. They sit in their own little cliques where they want to sit. But yeah, no, we have room for everybody.
Good. Anybody else? I don't want to cut anybody else off. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Amy, for joining us. I
Thank
appreciate
you so
this.
much, everybody.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend and be safe, be successful. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in. I'm sure you got a lot from this episode. Join Ron and his next guest here on the One Thing Podcast.